Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we've got a special guest from Worbli, and that's their CEO and founder, Domenic. So welcome to the channel, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So for those that don't know, what's Worbli and what's an EOS sister chain? We're going to dive into all that, but how did you get into all this in the first place, Domenic?
Yeah, so I came across the Bitcoin white paper and mining back in like 2010 GPU days. Was really excited about the possibilities. What distributed ledger technology could do, decentralization. Taking control of money and reading all the books on economics. Like I think everybody goes down that rabbit hole, right, when they first start. And so yeah, I was really excited about it. And then life kind of happened for a while. I got out of mining when all the ASICs came in, and I didn't see making that type of investment at the time. And a few years later, I started studying programming, knew I wanted to change careers. I was in medicine and healthcare, and started seeing all these programmable blockchains and Ethereum and Lisk and Stratus, and then hearing about EOS, and decided that I really wanted to kind of jump on. So I got involved with some different projects and was involved with some open source stuff, Florin Coin, all different crypto projects, and kind of get my feet wet and making connections. And then Craig Kellogg, my co-founder, and I decided that we wanted to start something up, and got a buddy of mine from college, Rob, who's our CTO, and we started up Worbli.
So for those at home that are a bit confused, we hear hard forks every day just about now. Some people can clone a code and make slight tweaks to it, but now we have what's called sister chains with Worbli and EOS. So for those that are all a bit confused at home, how can you explain that to them?
Well, the difference between a sister chain and a fork is a fork has a shared history, right? So that the Bitcoin chain was going along, and then we had Bitcoin Cash. Yeah. And it breaks off at that point with different, qualities, different code, but they have a shared history still, right? And that's why people end up getting, one-to-one Bitcoin Cash for Bitcoin, and and it moves forward from there. And then they break off, and they're really separate ecosystems. But in EOS, the code was really built for this. It was always designed that there would be multiple chains. And then, of course, there can be side chains off of our chain. But the difference is we have all our own block producers, all our own nodes. We're using the EOS-based code, but then we've added a smart contract layer that has some different rules, right? We have a different token supply, for example. We're going to have different governance, but we can basically do anything we want. But we'll still share similar code with mainnet. As they do updates, we'll most likely take those updates and bring them into our chain and launch those updates on our code base. So, but with IBC, inter-blockchain communication, which was, again, a core kind of feature in the EOS white paper that was planned from the beginning, hopefully as we get that technology launched in the next, I think it's somewhere around 6 to 12 months, you'll be able to communicate across EOS chains very easily. Smart contracts can move back and forth. Your EOS account will be able to hold tokens from the different chains in your wallet quite easily, and you should be able to interact with applications on any EOS blockchain, sister or side chain.
So what was the attraction of delegated proof of stake for you guys, and is it the exact same setup in terms of your 21 block producers for Worbli and EOS?
No, it's a little different. They're not elected at all. They're basically service providers for us. So we have 5-year agreements with our block producers. And the active block producers are on a certain pay scale, but it's all the same. It doesn't fluctuate. They all get paid the same amount from the same pool. And then we have what we call reserve block producers. And that's basically when we know we're ready and the economics can support more active block producers, we'll add from that reserve pool and expand the active pool. So it is different in that sense. The job they do is not much different. They're still producing blocks, but they have a little different role in our ecosystem. They really are, contracted providers that are here to support the network. We have a very good economic alignment with our block producers, with the foundation, with the community. We think everybody's really incentivized to grow the chain. And everybody benefits economically when that happens.
Do you see any pitfalls to what's been going on with the top 21? And I know a lot of people didn't want to end up with some of the exchanges the rich getting richer, and some of these smaller community groups that maybe would have more input into the local grassroots side of things aren't getting noticed. Do you think there's been some bugs that are still being ironed out?
Yeah, I think there's some flaws. You know, I was very vocal that I didn't buy this theory that those with the biggest amount of EOS would act in the best interest of the ecosystem because they have the biggest holdings. We've seen historically. That kind of boggled me. Like, the wealthy have always looked after themselves. I mean, we see that in capitalism, right? In the United States, the wealthiest people vote for legislation to keep their interests, you know, preserved. And I just saw this in the block producer stuff early. I said, you know, they're going to vote for either, you know, their friends, or in the case of exchanges, obviously they're going to vote for their own nodes. What's to keep them from producing multiple nodes in the future? And that's what's happening, unfortunately. You know, with AML KYC on Worbli, we can do a one person, one vote system, or certainly a hybrid where the biggest holders don't have an outsized influence, right? DPoS, if it works well and you have a good democratic process in the community and they're engaged in vote. Now, this is on the community and that's their side, right? You can make a great system, but if everyone doesn't vote, or very few people, then that's kind of on the community, right? So it's two-sided, right? The community has to vote, but they have to be able to have a voice. And I think people get disgruntled when they say, oh, my vote's not going to count, right? The exchanges have 100 million tokens. I have 100. How's that going to change anything, right? So I think it needs to be ironed out. But, you know, people need to remember that we're kind of building virtual nation states here, right? I mean, EOS is crazy what it's trying to do. It's a big deal. So it's going to take time.
And it's very early on. And the wallets and it was very difficult for people to even vote in the first place as well. So I'm hoping that all that changes, because otherwise I see a situation where maybe projects such as yourself and other sister chains become more community orientated and could even overtake that demand for EOS as block one step away and so on. So it's very interesting to watch this unfold, and we are setting our own path, I guess, aren't we?
Well, and that's what sister chains can do extremely well, though, you know, with Worbli and Telos, and I'm sure that, and I know there's others that are springing up. You know, we're going to experiment with some different governance systems, and I'm fairly certain that if they work really well, they'll get adopted. Yeah. You know, it should be a system of like adoption amongst all of these chains, where we look over here and go, oh my God, look what they're doing on Telos. That's amazing. Let's bring that feature in, right? Yeah. Same back and forth. So it really should be EOS universe in the end. And I think people being too concerned that their holdings are in mainnet. We're doing airdrops, right? We're dropping a ton of our tokens on that community. Telos is doing the same thing. I think as long as we keep that up, so that the stakeholders in the original EOS chain, who really, you know, they funded this, right? They deserve something. That's how we thought about it from the beginning. Like, just because it's open source and we can grab it for free, we're not going to, right? We're going to bring some value back to those folks. And if that happens, as an EOS mainnet holder, I don't think you need to vote for one chain to be the one. I think you could just be voting for the ecosystem, kind of hoping if all of us do well, or some of us even do well, you're still going to come out in a great spot, right?
Yeah. One question I still get is, what is the best EOS wallet to get all these airdrops, for example?
Well, I mean, just for straight airdrops on mainnet, you know, we're using the scatter tool for Worbli, because we think scatter's got a great interface. The gray mass wallet's really, really good. And I think that in the Asian community, there's a lot of folks who like Meet One and Token Pocket. So it's kind of preference. But again, you know, when you have a sister chain, we can't do an airdrop, right? We can't just drop the token in, because our token has the same code as the EOS mainnet token. So these wallets actually have to run a node in order to hold Worbli, or Worbli Telos and EOS, right? They're going to need to expand for that. But again, you know, the wallet we create on Worbli, when dApps do airdrops, you'll be able to automatically get those in that wallet. But it is still a little complicated. We're building a multi-currency insured wallet that is going to be available in the user account. Like, when you open an account, it's going to be like when you open a bank account, you automatically have a savings and a checking, right?
Yeah.
And you can start putting money in. We're going to have this base wallet. You'll be able to use other ones if you want, but this will be readily available. It'll have insurance for your assets. We're hoping at least up to $10,000 USD. And it'll be multi-currency. It should hold, EOS, Worbli, Telos, all of the EOS coins, of course, or tokens. And then the major ones like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. That's what we want to do to make that easy, because we agree with you. It's difficult and confusing, and we just can't have it. It's got to be easy.
So far, I've found Scatter to probably be the easiest if you're listening along at home, guys. But if you're going to a startup or a conference and there's 100 projects that are all thinking about building on EOS or maybe one of their sister chains, what type of projects are you looking to attract to Worbli, and why would they convince me to use Worbli instead of EOS, for example?
Well, we're really going after financial, right? And that's the heart of our chain is compliance. That's the kind of governance layer, the code layer that we've added to the EOS software. And so users go through AML KYC. Everyone on chain will be verified. So that allows financial applications and fintech startups to have the compliance part taken care of for the user. They can just launch. They can, we're the trusted third party at the foundation that these users are in fact verified. Our process is, open. They can look at it. They can look through our compliance and be certain that that's taken care of for them. And that's a big deal. It's a headache. It costs money. And so that'll be in place. The other thing is that we're really setting up to be enterprise ready. And a big part of that is stability. We have the same block producers. They're not going to be moving around. We can grow long-term projects with them in infrastructure. We have enterprise APIs that'll be available just for apps that aren't public. So they're private, they're more secure, they should have better performance. We've already solved some latency issues because we have the same block producers. So we're getting a better speed, a better performance. And we have a security auditing of all the EOS code, and anything we find, of course, we'll share with mainnet and other chains that isn't found by the mainnet block producers. But we're also doing penetration testing, and we're going to make these services available to apps. So when you go to launch your app on Worbli, we'll put you through a security audit to help you out, tell you if we find any bugs. It's really about making sure users are safe and that we're compliant globally, so that everybody's not going to have, the SEC in the US or any of these financial bodies knocking on their door down the road.
Very cool, very cool. The last question I had for you was about, I guess, the bear market in general. And we're seeing a lot of these projects that are paying staff in tokens. And these people are being forced to sell just to keep the lights on and pay other people. And are you worried that if the bear market is to continue, that some of these projects, as you go down the market cap, that don't really have a buy demand yet, they're not being freely traded on exchanges, and we don't really have a lot of apps running with some of these smaller projects, is that a problem for you guys, or do you have a plan B, I guess?
Yeah, I completely understand what you're talking about. It's kind of like with Bitcoin miners, right? When the price gets so low that the cost of mining, right, is higher than what they could sell the Bitcoins that they're mining for, that's an issue, right? And we used to see in the past, people would shut down their machines, and there'd just be those of us, you're kind of speculating at that point, right? You've got to just hang in there, have some faith that the price will rise in the future, and you kind of just mine and you save up your coins for a while, and then hopefully there's a spike and you can sell off. But, you do need to have reserves. And part of that, we talk about this as business risk. We need block producers, and part of our selection process was knowing that we had teams that could weather this stuff, that had good cash reserves, that had good business models. I think the block producers are seeing that they need to be diverse. And it was funny to me when people were originally kind of being a little salty about block producers that were mainnet and saying they were announcing for Worbli. I'm like, this is good for you. Yeah. This is another income stream for them. And it's not that much of an additional cost, right? Sure, they have to spin up some extra nodes, but it isn't like they have to double their team, right? And double their capacity. It's an incremental cost if you understand business, and potential revenue stream, which strengthens them. And now we're seeing they're getting into dApp development. They're getting into consulting, right? And this is what we want. We want these block producers to be very, very solid businesses that are contributing across the space, that have diverse income streams. And so I think that's the point. I hope that that's what this is doing to the block producer teams. I know the teams we're working with, that's absolutely their plan. They're building software development teams that are going to contract out to make money. And we have a plan B around potential buybacks to make sure we create a bottom for our token price, because we understand how important this is.
Yeah, that's a good answer, and it's survival of the fittest. It's part of the normal business cycle, and we are seeing the washing out of all the projects that don't have good plans and so on. So I do wish you guys all the best. I will put all the links below, Dominic, for people that want to find out more about Worbli or join the community. So any final messages for people today?
No, just hopefully you'll come to worbli.io and sign up, create an account. The AML KYC process is getting smoother and better every day. We're working out the bugs there. It's the first time it's been done, so bear with us if you have some issues, but we've got a great customer service team. But we'd love to have you over, create an account, check us out. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming. Utility token trading platform, decentralized insurance. We've got some projects that are doing security tokens with gold and gold mining. Very cool stuff happening. So hope you check us out.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have to have you back on in the future once we have all those projects up and running. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Cheers.